Agrippa, a short story by Sumiko Saulson. What we imagined we knew was immense in its sheer intensity of hubris. We imagined we knew all of the important things. We felt we'd unlocked the secrets to life after death and into all mortality. Forged from the simple gifts of our entirely mortal realm, of metals and plastic and flashes of man-made electricity, we imagined that what we did not know was insignificant. For one who doubts that a man has a soul would surely not care to investigate whether a mouse has as much less a stone or a bit of iron ore, and thus we were mistaken on so many levels. We had no idea how dangerous our misconceptions would become. How very wrong we were. The interview. I arrived barely on time, despite knowing that I had been told to arrive 15 minutes early. It was entirely my own fault that I was feeling irritated by the vaguely cherubic woman standing before me in line. She was perhaps in her late 70s or early 80s, making her 30 years my senior. She wore a black hat of basket weave pattern and a jean jacket with matching pants. Her skin, the color of Jubilee mushrooms, was covered in moles and freckles, things vainly called beauty marks, where the melanin had run off into little clumps, away from the former uniformity of tone, a uniformity that I no longer possessed entirely, and soon would not possess at all. Perhaps I was prejudiced about the aging process. I remembered, I feared it, that my skin would look like her weathered and splotchy facade. She was going bald, another sign of aging. Her Audrey Hepburn-like hat was quite fashionable, although not remotely modern. It added to her age, despite its apparent glamour. She was somewhat short and in ballet flats. I remember that the most, because she kept standing on her tiptoes, which I believed was entirely unnecessary. The glass window encasing the seating receptionist was tall and wide, and started no more than 3.5 feet from the floor. This lady was about 5 feet tall, so there was no need for her to shove herself up onto make-believe high heels. I was convinced she was being coy. "Agrippa," she said haughtily. "My name is Agrippa Henrietta Cornelius." I blinked my eyes rapidly in disbelief. Could this round little woman be named after Henry Cornelius Agrippa, the heretical alchemist who appeared as a black dog familiar in Faust, and the mentor to Mary Shelley's The Mortal Immortal? I didn't think it possible, but if it were, I seriously doubt that she could know the significance of her name. At any rate, she'd spent several minutes by the count of the old-fashioned wall clock, perched upon her toes like a ballerina vulture. The clock, an ancient relic, like the one before me, featured hands over round white face marking the minutes and hours, and themselves demarcated by numbers 3, 6, 9, and 12, a series of little lines. I suppose that I am a member of the last generation who will remember what those looked like, those childhoods sprinkled with memories of sitting in a classroom waiting for the small hand to strike 3. I am quite certain that the little old woman with the wrinkled apple doll face knew she was taking up the receptionist's precious time for 5, no 10, no 15 minutes, complaining about the new procedure, which required that patients produce their identification or, in absence of it, allow a fingerprint scan. The kindly lady across the counter from her indulged her patiently as she demanded the ways in which she might reach supervisors to protest this insulting insinuation that she might be anyone other than Agrippa Henrietta Cornelius. When the big hand joined the little hand on the 3, I knew it was 15 minutes after 3, and I was 15 minutes late for my appointment with Dr. Martin Hartouche. I had a job interview. For the position of research assistant, and although I almost certainly objected to being asked to sit in a waiting room with the guinea pigs, I had little desire to lose the job opportunity due to my failure to comply. Perhaps it had been a sort of test. I wasn't sure, but one could not be too compliant in the current job market. I felt like screaming at this woman, "No one is going to ask you for a date in here, so you can stop posing and trying to be cute, lady. You're holding me up." Just then she dropped to her heels to the floor, and I was filled with a vague sense of hope that she would leave on her own. No such luck. She spoke for another 3 minutes before I coughed, signaling my annoyance. She turned round, her chubby cheek presenting a surprisingly fetching curve in her profile, her nose poking out just so, more than my own, which would have disappeared behind fat at that angle. Her banana yellow t-shirt became visible, making her like a time-transported relic from the 70s, and I was almost positive that I could remember seeing Olivia Newton-John wearing the same outfit. Even knowing who Olivia Newton-John was made me feel old. For the first time, I noticed the woman spoke with a New England accent, maybe Boston. She grabbed a card from the receptionist and finally left. I introduced myself to the receptionist. "I'll let Dr. Hartouche know you're here, Dr. Tyne," she said efficiently. I was beginning to nervously sweat by now. I'd been told repeatedly that I was overqualified for every available position I'd applied for, and to make matters worse, I was now 20 minutes late. You can't imagine my surprise when I was given the job. I was so happy. Even with the Dulceta reforms in place, a strict set of laws that put all of the unemployed at risk of debtor's prison and possible execution if we were unable to obtain work and repay the government in a timely manner, I would have turned the job down in a heartbeat if I knew then what I know now.